What if the only reason you feel angry is because you've been trained to? What if the irritation, the frustration, the boiling pressure inside you isn't truly yours, but something you inherited, absorbed, or learned along the way? Think about it. How many times have you gotten upset over something small, only to regret it later? A comment, a look, a message that hit you the wrong way, and suddenly your peace was gone. That moment, that feeling, took over your entire day, sometimes longer. You were held hostage by it, all because someone else pulled a string you didn't even know you had. Anger is expensive, not in dollars, but in energy. It drains your mental clarity. It clouds your judgment. It pushes people away and pulls you out of alignment with who you really are. And the truth is, the cost is almost never worth it. Most of the time, when we look back, we realize we gave our power away to something that didn't deserve it. A stranger's words, a friend's opinion, a family member's tone. But the deeper truth is even harder to face. We weren't reacting to them. We were reacting to a part of ourselves that still needed healing. That's where the real transformation begins. When you start asking yourself, not why did they say that, but why did that bother me? That shift, small as it sounds, is the gateway to emotional mastery. It's the difference between being pulled by life or directing it. You weren't born to be angry. You weren't created to be bothered by every sharp word or ignorant action. You were meant to rise above it, to stand unshaken in a world that tries to pull you in every direction. And when you understand that, something powerful happens. You stop reacting just to react. You pause, you breathe, you let the moment pass through you instead of taking over you, and suddenly, you realize you're not the same person anymore. You've stepped into control, real control, not control over others, but over yourself, which is the only power that truly matters. Here's why you need to stay with this, because when you master this one thing, when you learn how to stop being controlled by anger or bothered by anyone, you don't just become calmer, you become stronger, clearer, more focused. You stop wasting hours in emotional pain. You stop giving energy to people who haven't earned your attention. You take back your time, your peace, your confidence. You stop being reactive and start being deliberate. That shift can change your life. It can change your relationships, your decisions, your future. So if you're tired of being pulled into the chaos, if you're done with feeling powerless, this is where everything starts. Right here, right now. Stay with this. Because the path you're about to walk leads to the strongest, calmest, most powerful version of you. And once you meet that version, you'll never want to go back. You don't need to fight every battle. Not every situation deserves your reaction. Most of what upsets you is not a reflection of reality, it's a reflection of your programming. Reactions are rehearsed. They're patterns wired into your nervous system long before you even knew who you were. That sudden heat in your chest, that tightness in your jaw, that voice in your head screaming, "This isn't fair." None of that is you, it's an echo. A reflex built from moments where you felt powerless, disrespected, or unseen. And unless you bring awareness to it, you will keep living on autopilot, triggered by anything and everything, controlled by people who don't even know the power they hold over your state of mind. But you're not a puppet, and your emotions are not strings for others to pull. You have the ability to interrupt the pattern, to see the anger rising, and choose stillness instead. That's the beginning of real strength. It's not in how loud you speak, or how hard you push back. It's in how calmly you stand while others lose themselves. Because that calm, it's not passive, it's not weakness, it's control, earned, practiced, and fiercely protected. It's the control that turns chaos into clarity, and noise into silence. There's something powerful about a person who can feel emotion without being consumed by it. Someone who can look at a situation and say, "This doesn't deserve my energy." That's not detachment, it's discipline. It's wisdom, and it's a skill anyone can learn if they're willing to stop identifying with every emotion that surfaces. Because not every emotion is truth, some are just habits in disguise, and anger, more often than not, is just an alarm going off in the mind, one that no longer fits the moment but still screams as if it does. When you understand this, something shifts. You begin to observe yourself, not just live through yourself. You start catching those moments where you used to react without thinking. You feel the tension, but now you recognize it. You don't fight it, you don't obey it. You just see it, breathe through it, and move forward with power instead of pain. That right there is freedom. It's when you stop being a prisoner of your past conditioning and start becoming the architect of your emotional world. People will always test your peace. Life will always bring situations that challenge your control. But those moments aren't the problem. The problem is forgetting that you are not your reaction. You are the one who chooses what lives and what dies inside you. The moment you accept that, you start to rise. You start to lead yourself. And when you can lead yourself, no one can drag you down. You don't bend to noise. You don't fall for chaos. You hold the line. Calm, clear, unbothered. That's the beginning of who you're becoming. Don't let go of it. This is where power begins. Anger often comes from one place, the need to be right, that desperate pull to defend your opinion, prove your worth, or make someone else see things your way. But here's the truth. Most people never confront. Needing to be right is a trap. It turns every disagreement into a war. It transforms peace into pride. And pride, unchecked, becomes the heaviest chain you can carry. You don't win when you prove someone wrong. You win when you no longer need to. When your self-worth isn't built on arguments. When your identity doesn't crumble every time someone disagrees with you. That's when you're free. The need to be right comes from fear. Fear of not being enough, of being overlooked, of feeling invisible. So you cling to your words, you raise your voice, you armor yourself in certainty. But underneath it all, it's not strength. It's insecurity disguised as dominance. And that insecurity is what keeps you reactive. That's what makes you snap when someone questions you. It's what feeds the fire every time someone touches your pride. But the more you let go of that need, the lighter you become. Because real strength doesn't scream to be seen. It doesn't demand to be validated. It stands firm in silence, knowing it loses nothing by walking away from chaos. When you choose peace over being right, you're not giving up, you're rising up. You're saying, I don't need this to define me. You're choosing growth over ego, and ego hates that. It wants to win, it wants to dominate. But growth wants freedom, it wants peace, it wants evolution. The more you feed your ego, the more you'll find yourself pulled into pointless battles, drained by people who thrive on conflict, trapped in loops that never end. But the moment you stop needing to prove yourself, you become untouchable. This isn't about letting others walk over you. It's about choosing what's worth your energy. Not everything is. Most arguments lead nowhere. Most confrontations are just two wounded people trying to protect their pride. You don't need to be one of them. You can be the one who steps back, not out of fear, but out of power. Because power isn't in the push, it's in the restraint. It's in the ability to say, I know who I am, and I don't need your approval to prove it. Letting go of the need to be right feels uncomfortable at first. It feels like losing. But over time, it becomes a superpower. You'll notice how much easier life feels, how much lighter your mind is, how many doors open when you stop fighting to be heard and start listening to understand. That shift alone will change your relationships, your confidence, your energy. You'll stop reacting to every word that challenges you, because you'll know nothing said about you can ever change what's true within you. And when you live from that truth, you no longer need to be right. You just need to be aligned. That's what sets you free. Most of what bothers you in others is a reflection of something unresolved within yourself. It's not the tone they used or the words they said. It's what those words triggered inside you. It's the old wound they touched, the fear they stirred, the insecurity they poked without even knowing. People don't bother you because they're powerful. They bother you because they unknowingly activate the parts of you still waiting to be healed. And until you see that clearly, you'll keep blaming them. You'll keep fighting shadows, thinking it's about them, when it's really about the mirror they held up. Every person you meet is a mirror. Some reflect your strength, others reflect your pain. But either way, they show you something valuable, something you might not want to see. That's why anger rises so fast. Because the moment someone exposes a wound, your defenses go up. The ego jumps in, ready to protect. But that protection often looks like rage, like sarcasm, like silence, like withdrawal. And underneath all of it is the same message. I don't want to feel this again. So you react, you lash out, you shut down. But none of that makes you free. It only proves how easily you can be controlled. Freedom begins when you stop treating people like enemies and start seeing them as teachers, not because their behavior is acceptable, but because their presence reveals something deeper. Every irritation is a signal. Every reaction is a map. Follow it inward, and you'll find the part of you still asking for attention. That's not weakness, that's awareness. And awareness is the first step to transformation. You can't rise above what you refuse to see, and you can't master what you keep projecting onto others. The truth is, people aren't the problem. Your interpretation of them is. You see through the lens of your past, through the filter of your fears, through the echo of every time you felt unseen, unheard, unloved. So when someone triggers that feeling again, even slightly, it's not them you're angry at, it's the history they remind you of. And unless you bring consciousness into that moment, you'll repeat the same emotional cycle again and again, with different faces and familiar pain. But you don't have to keep repeating. You can choose reflection over reaction. You can pause and ask, what is this really about? You can train your mind to respond with curiosity instead of judgment. That shift alone will break cycles that have lasted for years. Because once you stop seeing others as the cause of your discomfort, you reclaim the power to change it. You're no longer a victim of their behavior. You become the observer of your own evolution. That's the real win. That's what makes you untouchable. Not because people stop bothering you, but because their behavior no longer controls you. You've seen the mirror. You've faced what's in it. And now, you move forward stronger, clearer, and fully in command of your peace. Emotional power begins in the pause. That tiny space between stimulus and response. It's where your entire future is shaped, without anyone noticing. One careless word, one harsh tone, one unexpected challenge, and your nervous system flares up. But in that split second, you're given a choice. React and give your power away, or pause and take it back. Most people never pause. They've trained themselves to fire back, to defend, to explain, to control. But all that reaction does is prove how easily they can be shaken. If you want to be unshakable, you have to learn to live in the gap. The pause is not silence, it's strength. It's the space where wisdom lives. It's where you meet your higher self before your lower self speaks. It doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't surrender to the feeling. You feel the surge, the heat, the pulse rising, but you don't let it lead. You breathe, you notice, you observe. That moment of stillness gives you something most people never find: freedom from emotional slavery. You are no longer owned by your anger. You're no longer dragged by every trigger. You become the one who decides how your energy moves. And that decision changes everything. You can be calm and powerful at the same time. You can feel the storm but not become it. You can sense the pressure but not let it crack you. The pause gives you access to that power. It teaches you to respond, not out of habit, but out of intention. You no longer meet chaos with more chaos. You meet it with clarity, with composure, with complete control. That kind of energy disarms conflict. It shifts the entire environment. Because calm is contagious. And when you master your state, you influence everyone around you without saying a word. It takes training. At first, the pause feels unnatural. You'll want to react. You'll want to defend. But if you hold that space, just for a moment, you create a new pattern. And every time you repeat it, your emotional muscles grow. You begin to trust yourself more. You stop fearing confrontation because you know it can't move you. You're not a slave to the moment anymore. You're the master of it. And that mastery bleeds into every part of your life. Your relationships change. Your confidence rises. Your peace becomes non-negotiable. There is no victory in being the loudest. There is no power in being the fastest to respond. The real victory is in mastering the moment before the moment controls you. That's where peace is built. That's where respect is earned, not from others, but from yourself. Because when you can stay calm in the face of chaos, you no longer fear anything outside you. You've learned to pause. You've learned to hold. And in that stillness, you've become stronger than anyone who tries to shake you. That is how you rise, quietly and completely, from reactive to untouchable. Every day, you wake up with a choice. You can let the world dictate your emotional state, or you can decide how you're going to feel before anything happens. Most people live like thermometers. They rise and fall with the temperature around them. Someone's bad mood pulls them down. A rude message ruins their peace. One inconvenience sets their whole day on fire. But there's another way to live. You can be the thermostat. You set the tone. You decide the internal climate. You create the emotional baseline that nothing outside of you can disturb. This isn't about pretending everything's fine. It's about choosing what gets to enter your inner world. You are not required to invite every disturbance in. You are not obligated to match anyone's energy. Just because someone is negative, reactive, or disrespectful doesn't mean you have to mirror it. You are not a reflection of what you see. You are a projection of what you decide to be. And when you choose that identity with intention, you stop absorbing every emotion around you. You stop giving away your mood to people who don't even know they hold it. The most powerful people in the world aren't the loudest. They're the ones who have built something unshakable inside. They can be surrounded by noise, tension, and chaos, and still choose peace. Not because life is easy, not because they're numb, but because they've made peace their priority. They've stopped outsourcing their happiness to circumstances. They've stopped giving people the authority to control their emotions. And in doing so, they've taken back something most people never even realized they lost: their power to choose how they feel. When you become intentional about your emotional state, everything changes. You stop waking up hoping the day goes well. You wake up and decide it will. You set the internal temperature, calm, focused, grounded, and you protect it like it's sacred, because it is. That inner climate controls how you speak, how you move, how you respond. It controls the energy you bring to every room, every conversation, every challenge. And when you learn to master it, you stop chasing peace and start carrying it. This takes commitment. You have to train your mind daily. You have to remind yourself, I don't have to react. I don't have to absorb. I don't have to give this my energy. That mental discipline creates emotional freedom, and emotional freedom is rare. Most people are chained to every external shift. But you don't have to be. You can break the cycle. You can build the kind of presence that doesn't bend, doesn't shake, and doesn't lower itself to match the noise around it. You can be the one who rises, not in volume, but in clarity. Not in anger, but in composure. That version of you already exists. All you have to do is choose it. Set your inner climate, hold the line, and let nothing disturb the peace you've decided is yours. You can't be angry at someone you understand. You can't stay bitter when you see clearly. What keeps you trapped in reaction is judgment, assuming you know who someone is based on a single word, a single action, a single moment. But people are not moments. They're stories you haven't read. They're pain you haven't seen. And when you stop rushing to judge and start choosing to understand, you shift from reaction to wisdom. Understanding isn't agreement, it's clarity, and clarity sets you free. When someone lashes out, it's not always about you. Most of the time, it's about their fear, their stress, their past, their brokenness that has nothing to do with you. But if you don't train your mind to see this, you'll take everything personally. You'll internalize every tone, every glance, every careless word. And in doing so, you'll hand over your peace to people who were never thinking about you in the first place. That's not strength. That's surrendering your power to things you don't control. But when you choose understanding over judgment, you rise above it. You become the one who sees beyond the surface. You stop reacting to symptoms and start seeing the root. Everyone is carrying something you can't see. Everyone is processing life through their own pain, their own story, their own lens. The more aware you become of this, the less reactive you get, because you realize it's not personal. Even when it feels like it is, you realize they're doing the best they can with what they know, even if that best looks broken. You realize their anger is about them, their tone is about them, their energy is about them. And you stop absorbing it. You stop mirroring it. You stand firm in your own truth. This is not about being passive, it's about being powerful in a different way. Responding with calm doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. You become untouchable not by controlling others, but by controlling what you allow inside. That's what understanding gives you. The power to remain rooted while the world around you shakes. The ability to hold peace in situations that used to unravel you. The clarity to say, I see what's happening, but I will not become it. The strongest person in the room is the one who doesn't need to react. The one who can sit in stillness, see the storm, and choose not to enter it. Understanding gives you that ability. It removes the hooks. It breaks the chains. It turns conflict into compassion. And with compassion, anger loses its grip. Bitterness dissolves. Resentment fades. Because now you're not fighting people. You're understanding patterns. And patterns are not personal. They're just reflections of someone's inner world. When you see that, you no longer feel the need to defend yours. You just stay grounded, clear, and completely in control of your peace. That is power few ever reach, but it's waiting for you, the moment you choose to understand instead of react. You suffer most when you resist what already is. The moment you try to control what you can't, you give your peace away. Anger is often nothing more than the refusal to accept reality. You wanted someone to act differently. You expected a situation to unfold your way. You assumed the world would follow your plan. But when it doesn't, when people fall short or life shifts direction, you tighten your grip, you push harder, you demand what isn't happening to happen. And that resistance is what creates the emotional storm inside you, not the event, not the person, but your unwillingness to let go. Letting go isn't giving up, it's growing up. It's realizing that peace doesn't come from control, it comes from surrendering what was never yours to hold. You can't control how people act, but you can control how you carry yourself through it. You can't control what life throws at you, but you can master how you respond. That inner mastery is the only true power you'll ever have. And when you anchor yourself in that truth, you stop trying to fight the world and start flowing with it. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the creator of your own emotional world. Resistance is what keeps you stuck. It's what keeps your mind spinning, replaying conversations, holding grudges, drowning in what should have been. But nothing changes when you hold on. You don't heal, you don't grow, you just bleed energy. And that energy could be used to build, to focus, to rise. But first, you have to let go of what's burning you from the inside. The need to control, the need to fix, the need to make people see what they refuse to understand. That's not your job. Your job is to remain grounded, no matter what shifts around you. Accept what is, not because you agree with it, but because fighting it only multiplies the pain. Acceptance doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect or shrink into silence. It means you stop pouring your emotions into battles you can't win. It means you rise above the chaos instead of being dragged through it. And from that place of inner stillness, you gain clarity. You make better decisions. You protect your energy. You stay aligned with who you are, instead of reacting to who others choose to be. This is emotional freedom. When your peace is no longer dependent on how others behave or how situations unfold, you become untouchable. Not cold, not distant, just deeply rooted in your own center. And when people can no longer shake you, you gain a kind of power that doesn't need to be shown. It's felt. Calm becomes your default. Surrender becomes your strength. And you stop trying to bend the world to your will because you finally learn to master the one thing that matters most, yourself. From that place, nothing outside you holds power. You are no longer reacting. You are leading your life from within. The stories you tell yourself are either your prison or your power. What bothers you isn't just what happened, it's the meaning you gave it. One comment becomes a personal attack. One disagreement becomes rejection. One moment of disrespect becomes proof that you're not enough. But none of those are facts. They're interpretations. And the mind, left untrained, will always choose the story that hurts the most, not because it wants to suffer, but because it's trying to protect you. If it prepares you for pain, maybe you won't be caught off guard again. But that preparation comes at a price, your peace. You get to rewrite the story. You get to take back the pen. You don't have to keep replaying the worst version of what someone said or did. You don't have to keep feeding the belief that people are out to get you, that you're always being disrespected, that you need to defend yourself at every turn. That's a heavy way to live, and it's not strength, it's exhaustion disguised as vigilance. You weren't meant to live with your guard up every minute of the day. You were meant to feel safe within yourself. And that safety starts when you stop assuming the worst. Reframing isn't delusion. It's discipline. It's the choice to view life through a lens that empowers you instead of drains you. When someone speaks to you harshly, instead of thinking, they don't respect me, try this. They must be going through something I don't understand. When someone ignores you, instead of, they're rejecting me, try, maybe they're lost in their own struggle right now. You're not excusing the behavior, you're protecting your peace. You're choosing a lens that allows you to move forward with strength, not stay stuck in stories that do nothing but poison your spirit. Your interpretation becomes your identity. If you keep telling yourself you're always under attack, you'll live on edge. If you keep believing people are the enemy, you'll walk through life armored and alone. But if you tell yourself a better story, one grounded in clarity and understanding, your world starts to shift. You begin to respond with grace instead of aggression. You create space instead of conflict. You choose peace, not because you're passive, but because you finally realize that your energy is too valuable to waste on imagined enemies. Every moment offers you a narrative. Some are built on fear, others on power. You get to choose which one becomes your truth. The world doesn't shape you, your story does. So tell one that heals you, one that lifts you, one that sets you free. You don't have to keep carrying the old version of events. You can release it, rewrite it, rise above it. That's how you stop being bothered by anyone, not by changing them, but by transforming the way you see, from fear to wisdom, from judgment to understanding, from anger to peace. That's where your power lives, not in the story you were given, but in the one you decide to write. Peace isn't something you stumble upon, it's something you protect, not passively, but with fierce intention. Because the world will test you. People will test you. They'll try to pull you into drama, provoke your pride, challenge your patience, and push your buttons, not always on purpose, but always as a reminder of who you are and what you allow. The question is, will you hand over your peace every time someone acts out, or will you learn to protect it like it's sacred? Because it is. Your peace is your power, and not everything deserves access to it. You don't owe every situation a response. You don't owe every comment your energy. Just because someone invites you into chaos doesn't mean you have to accept. Growth is learning how to let people be wrong about you, how to let silence speak louder than defense, how to walk away without needing to explain yourself. That's not weakness, that's mastery. You are not here to attend every argument you're invited to. You are here to build something stronger, an internal world that stays clear no matter how messy the external world becomes. People will project, they will criticize, they will misunderstand you, and if you try to fight every false perception, you'll lose yourself trying to correct the minds of others. But your peace was never meant to be a public debate. It's a personal decision. It's the moment you choose to value your clarity more than your pride. The moment you decide that preserving your energy matters more than proving your point. The moment you realize that real power is quiet. It doesn't shout, it doesn't react, it doesn't chase validation, it simply stands, calm, firm, and unbothered. You are allowed to outgrow conflict. You are allowed to disengage from what drains you. You are allowed to say, this does not deserve my energy. That's not avoiding reality, that's owning it. Because reality will always include noise. But maturity is deciding what part of it you give your time to. You don't rise by fighting everything. You rise by focusing on what builds you, on what strengthens your mind, sharpens your heart, and protects your focus. Every ounce of energy you waste on anger is energy stolen from your purpose. Discipline yourself to protect your emotional space, not by hardening your heart, but by elevating your standards. Not everything that bothers you is worth fixing. Some things are simply worth ignoring, not because you're careless, but because you care deeply about what truly matters. And peace, that inner stillness, that unshakable calm, is one of the most important things you'll ever learn to protect. So the next time someone tries to pull you into their storm, remember this: you don't have to join them. You can stay in your center. You can hold your energy. You can walk away with peace still intact. That's power. That's maturity. That's emotional leadership. And that's how you remain unbothered, no matter what or who tries to shake you. Staying calm isn't just about handling others. It's about respecting yourself. Every time you choose not to react, not to lower yourself, not to meet chaos with chaos, you are proving to yourself that you have grown. You are no longer at the mercy of your impulses. You are no longer ruled by ego, pride, or old patterns. You have stepped into a version of yourself that doesn't need to shout to be heard or fight to be seen. Stillness becomes your strength. Composure becomes your armor, and self-respect becomes your guide. Because when you react, you lose yourself for a moment. You hand over your power, your clarity, your identity. You trade inner peace for temporary satisfaction. But when you pause, when you hold that energy inside, and let the storm pass, you win something far greater. You win control over your own mind. You prove to yourself that your mood, your state, your value is not determined by what others say or do. That is power, quiet, invisible, but unshakable. And once you've tasted that level of self-respect, you stop trading it for anyone. You don't need revenge. You don't need to clap back. You don't need to explain yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. That's not where your freedom lives. Your freedom lives in restraint, in knowing you could react, but choosing not to. That's the kind of inner discipline that builds confidence that doesn't waver. Because now you're not being dragged by emotions. You're directing them. You're not escaping triggers. You're mastering them, and that mastery builds a foundation no one else can shake. The more you honor your peace, the more you raise your standards. You no longer feel the need to be available to every conversation, every conflict, every energy that doesn't match yours. You begin to walk differently, not arrogantly, but intentionally, not distant but discerning. And that shift isn't just something you feel, it's something others feel too. They begin to realize they can't move you so easily. That your silence doesn't mean defeat. It means you're not playing a game that costs your sanity. You begin to see every reaction as a choice, not a command, not an obligation. And that awareness gives you space. Space to breathe, space to think, space to rise above the emotional noise that used to pull you under. And in that space you build something rare, emotional self-respect, the kind that says, I will not sacrifice my peace just to prove a point. I will not become small just to be right. I will not lose myself just to make someone else comfortable. That is the highest form of power, not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. You become the calm in the storm, not because life is easy, but because you have finally chosen to respect your energy more than your ego. And once that choice becomes your way of life, nothing outside you can ever control you again. When you stop being reactive, you start becoming intentional. You no longer respond out of habit, you respond out of clarity. And that changes everything. It's not about being passive or suppressing emotion. It's about taking back the authority over your own nervous system, because your emotions were never meant to control you. They were meant to signal you, teach you, guide you. But without awareness, they become your ruler. And when you're ruled by emotion, you're easily manipulated, easily triggered, easily led away from what actually matters. The moment you learn to sit with your emotion without immediately expressing it, you begin to break the chains. You don't lash out. You don't implode. You observe. You breathe. You ask yourself, what's really being threatened here? Is it your pride, your sense of control, your need to be understood? When you peel back the surface, you often find it's not the situation that's the problem. It's the meaning you've attached to it. That person didn't steal your peace. You gave it away by assuming their behavior had the power to define you. But it doesn't, unless you let it. Your greatest freedom is in your pause. That moment between trigger and response. That tiny space holds the potential to transform everything. In that space, you remember who you are. You remember that not everything needs fixing. Not everything deserves energy. Some things are just noise, designed to pull you off course. But you're not here to dance with distractions. You're here to rise above them, not with arrogance, but with awareness. Not with ego, but with discipline. You don't need to react to feel powerful. In fact, true power often looks like doing nothing, not because you don't care, but because you care deeply about preserving your peace. Your energy is sacred. Your focus is rare. Why waste it proving yourself to someone who doesn't even understand the weight you carry or the battles you've already won in silence? You owe no one an explanation for choosing peace. You owe yourself the consistency of protecting it. Every time you respond with calm, you reinforce your strength. Every time you choose silence over argument, patience over pride, you wire your brain for resilience. You train your mind to stay still in chaos. You program your body to remain rooted under pressure. That's not weakness. That's elite control. That's how leaders move. That's how peace becomes permanent, not by removing problems, but by becoming someone who cannot be disturbed by them. There is no need to rush to defend your worth. It's not on trial. There is no need to respond to every accusation. Your truth is not a performance. The deeper you go within, the less the outside world can touch you. And when you reach that level of calm, people notice, not because you speak louder, but because your presence says everything. You've earned your stillness. Now protect it like your life depends on it, because the quality of your life absolutely does. If your peace can be stolen, it was never grounded. If someone's words can break your focus, they still have access to your energy. And that's the wake-up call. To reclaim what's yours, you have to build walls, not to keep the world out, but to keep your mind from leaking energy where it no longer belongs. You don't have time to react to everything. You don't have space to engage with every drama, every misunderstanding, every projection someone throws your way. Your life is too valuable, your vision is too important, and your inner world is too sacred to be available to every passing emotion. Not everything deserves a response. Not every opinion needs your attention. When you know who you are, when you've built your worth from the inside out, you stop being so easily moved by surface-level chaos. Let them misjudge you. Let them underestimate you. Let them talk. Your job isn't to control them. It's to stay rooted in who you are, regardless of who's watching or whispering. Because silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. And peace is not passivity, it's power directed inward. You rise above not because you think you're better, but because you refuse to be dragged back into energy that no longer fits who you're becoming. You've outgrown those reactions. You've matured past the need to always be right. You've moved beyond the childish urge to win every conflict. Winning now looks like peace. Victory now sounds like silence. Success now feels like knowing that nothing outside of you has the power to break what's been rebuilt within you. And that's the truth. Everything you've been through has been shaping you for this level of calm. Every heartbreak, every argument, every unfair moment, those weren't there to destroy you. They were there to train you, to teach you emotional control, to prepare you for the version of yourself that leads with stability instead of ego. You didn't come this far just to let someone's bad day ruin your good one. You didn't build this inner peace just to throw it away in a 5-second reaction. You're no longer trying to be understood. You're practicing understanding. You're no longer chasing validation. You're rooted in self-respect. You're no longer seeking approval. You're honoring alignment. That's the shift. You're not avoiding people. You're choosing environments that don't require you to shrink. You're not suppressing anger. You're channeling that fire into purpose. And when that shift happens, the outside world becomes quieter, not because it changed, but because you stopped giving it so much access to your inner state. There's no reward in reactivity, but there is peace in patience. There is strength in restraint. There is freedom in walking away from what doesn't match your evolution. This is not just a mindset. This is a lifestyle, a choice you make every day. And every time you choose peace over provocation, stillness over struggle, you cast a vote for the future you're creating. A future where you are unshakable, untouchable, and deeply, unapologetically free. Peace is not the absence of noise, it's the presence of discipline. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows their value doesn't fluctuate with someone else's opinion. It's the calm rooted in self-awareness, not in the world finally behaving the way you want it to. Because life will never be predictable. People will never be perfect. Circumstances will never line up exactly how you'd prefer. But peace is available anyway. Not because everything outside of you is calm, but because you've made the choice to be. The moment you stop reacting, you take your power back. The moment you pause before responding, you create space between stimulus and response. And in that space, there's freedom. That space is where your strength lives. That's where you decide if you'll operate from your emotions or your vision, whether you'll feed your wounds or feed your growth. And it's in that tiny moment, that breath of awareness, where everything changes. That's where maturity wins over pride. That's where emotional clarity beats temporary chaos. The old you might have lashed out, defended yourself, tried to prove your point. But the version you're becoming doesn't need to prove anything. The energy of peace is stronger than the energy of force. The energy of grounded presence speaks louder than any angry response. And when you stand in that energy, the world begins to adjust. Not because you control it, but because you no longer let it control you. You don't need to silence others to protect your peace. You only need to master the art of not giving them control of your nervous system. That's the real flex. Emotional regulation. Not bottling things up, but transmuting them. Not faking calmness, but becoming it. Let them project. Let them assume. Let them misunderstand you. That's not your weight to carry. Your job is to protect your focus, guard your energy, elevate your mindset. Your calm is your responsibility, and every time you choose it, you level up in silence. And yes, there will be moments that test you. People who trigger old patterns, situations that stir up emotional residue. That's okay. It's not about never feeling. It's about not letting temporary feelings make permanent decisions. Feel the emotion, then lead it. Don't let it lead you. Emotional intelligence doesn't mean you're cold, it means you're conscious. It means you've decided that peace is no longer negotiable, that your time, your energy, your purpose, none of it will be traded for momentary satisfaction or reactive impulses. This is the path of inner mastery, the quiet work most people avoid, the real power that doesn't need to be announced. You're not here to fight every battle. You're here to rise above the noise, hold your center, and create a life too full of purpose to be shaken by drama. Every time you do, you train your nervous system to stay grounded. Every time you choose presence, you rewire your mind for peace. This is what freedom feels like. This is who you were always meant to be. Stillness isn't weakness, it's power restrained. It's strength under control. When you stop letting the outside world dictate your internal state, you begin to own your reality. The loudest one in the room is rarely the strongest. True power doesn't scream, it radiates. It's silent, steady, and rooted. And the person who masters their emotions becomes unshakable in a world that feeds off chaos. You don't need to meet every attack with defense. You don't need to answer every provocation with energy. Sometimes, the highest response is no response at all. You rise by letting go, not by holding on. Holding on to anger doesn't make you right, it just keeps you chained. Chained to the energy of those you claim to have outgrown. Chained to emotions that pull you out of alignment. And every time you react, you reaffirm that power is outside you. But it's not, it's inside. In your ability to step back, to observe without absorbing, to witness the storm, and remain calm at the center. That's the transformation. Not changing others, but changing how much control they have over you. It's not suppression, it's transmutation. You feel it, you face it, you rise above it. Anger loses its grip when you realize it's not truth, it's just a message. It's not wrong, it's a signal. But it's not your identity. You can feel angry and still act with wisdom. You can be triggered and still respond with intention. That gap, that moment between impulse and action, is your evolution. It's where you go from reacting like everyone else to leading yourself like very few ever will. The world is full of noise, opinions, projections, ego battles. But you're not here to win arguments. You're here to win peace. To guard your emotional state like it's sacred, because it is. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Not every situation deserves your reaction. You are not a puppet to someone else's behavior. You are not a mirror for their chaos. You're a force. And that force grows when you decide that nothing external can move what's internal, unless you give it permission. There is a kind of freedom that comes when you no longer crave validation. When your sense of self is rooted in presence, not performance. When your mind is no longer hijacked by every offense, every rude comment, every unfair moment. That's not indifference, it's mastery. Because now, Your power doesn't leak, it builds, it grows, it multiplies in silence. And while others chase noise, you embody clarity. While others try to win arguments, you build a life that needs no explanation. When you choose peace, you're not being passive. You're being precise. You're choosing what truly matters. And what matters is how you feel, how you live, how you grow, not who disrespected you or who didn't see your worth. That's their journey. Yours is to rise, to lead yourself, to become so grounded, so clear, so powerful within, that nothing outside you can disturb the kingdom you've built in your mind. There comes a point when you realize peace isn't found in perfect circumstances, it's found in your response to imperfect ones. Life won't always be fair, people won't always be kind, you will be misunderstood, overlooked, disrespected, and challenged. But the greatest breakthrough comes when none of that controls your state anymore, when you don't need anyone to behave a certain way for you to remain centered. That's when you take back your freedom. That's when you stop being a prisoner to reactions and start becoming the creator of your inner world. Every time you withhold your reaction, you gain a little more of your power back. Every moment you breathe instead of break, you become more unshakable. This is not weakness. This is not indifference. It's the highest form of emotional intelligence. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can match negative energy with more negativity. But it takes true strength to pause, to choose awareness over impulse, to protect your peace as if it were oxygen. Because it is. And when you finally stop trading your peace for other people's chaos, you start rising above a world that feeds on conflict. The truth is, you don't owe anyone your reaction. You don't owe them your explanation, your anger, or your energy. Sometimes, silence is your superpower. It's not avoidance, it's alignment. You don't engage just to prove a point. You don't argue just to be heard. You rise so high that their words can't reach you. You evolve so far that the old triggers lose their grip. And in that space, something incredible happens. Your mind clears, your emotions settle, and your focus returns to what truly matters: growth, purpose, peace. You are not here to win battles that don't serve your future. You are here to master yourself. And that mastery begins with the moment you decide to no longer react on autopilot, to no longer be a slave to every slight, every insult, every judgment thrown your way. Because the moment you react, you give them control. But when you stay calm, when you choose presence over provocation, you reclaim it all. That's when the game changes. That's when you rise beyond the level of noise and enter the realm of influence. Peace isn't passive, it's powerful. It's the refusal to let the outside dictate your inside. It's the decision to be led by purpose, not ego. You don't get angry because you're weak. You get angry because something inside is still asking for validation, still hoping for fairness, still craving acknowledgement. But when you realize you don't need any of that to feel whole, you let go. And when you let go, you unlock the deepest kind of freedom. No one can give it to you. No one can take it from you. It's yours, built from within. That's the path to becoming untouchable. Not because the world changed, but because you did. If your mind is constantly spinning, always reacting, always reaching for something to quiet the noise, then peace will always feel distant, like a horizon you can see but never touch. But the truth is, peace isn't found in controlling the world around you. It's found in mastering the world within you. And that mastery begins the moment you stop chasing external calm and start building internal stillness. It's not about fixing everything. It's about realizing you don't need everything to be fixed to feel whole. The world can be loud, people can be unpredictable, life can be unfair. But when your inner world is stable, none of it breaks you. You've been taught to respond, to defend, to explain, to prove. But none of that leads to peace. It leads to exhaustion. It leads to endless battles with people who have no power except the power you hand them. You don't have to attend every argument. You don't have to correct every misunderstanding. You don't need to win the approval of those who don't even understand themselves. Your energy is sacred. Your time is finite. And the more you grow, the more selective you must become about what you allow to enter your mental space. There's power in restraint. There's power in letting go of the need to always be right, to always be heard, to always be validated. Your value doesn't come from outside reflection. It comes from inner knowing. And when that knowing is strong, you stop seeking. You start creating. You begin operating from a place of centered purpose rather than scattered reaction. This is where transformation begins. When you no longer live to keep up, to catch up, or to make everyone else comfortable, you finally start living for truth, for alignment, for peace. The most dangerous version of you is the one who doesn't flinch, the one who feels the storm and stands anyway, the one who is no longer pulled by chaos but guided by clarity. You weren't meant to stay reactive. You were meant to evolve past your triggers, to notice them, acknowledge them, and rise beyond them. That's the real test, not how loud you can shout, but how still you can remain when the world tries to pull you back into patterns that no longer serve you. It's not easy, it's not instant, but it's worth everything. Because when you can sit in silence and still feel strong, when you can walk away without feeling the need to defend yourself, when you can be misunderstood and still remain whole, you've arrived at something unshakable. That's the foundation of power most never reach. But it's available to you, not someday, now, not if others change, but when you do. You can reclaim yourself, moment by moment, breath by breath, decision by decision. You can make peace your baseline, not your reward. And when that happens, everything around you begins to shift. Not because it changed, but because you did.